Good day and welcome to Personal Study Insights. In this episode, we are going to be sharing our insights from Doctrine and Covenants section 28. My name is Karenatha and I'm here with
Namir Kwamonka.
Okay, so for verse 28, we see something interesting. I was trying to put myself in the shoes of the prophets. Hearing somebody say things about the church, revelations and things that's going to happen, and knowing that it was contradicting some of the things I had actually received, and wondering what I would have done, whether I would have gone straight to the people and told them, sorry, it's not true, because I am the one supposed to receive revelation. But I was really struck by the prophet's humility. He not, going straight to just say, you can't receive revelation, it has to be me, but turning to the Lord as well. And I would want to read from section 28, verse 4 of Doctrine and Covenants, and from verse 5, because I think it teaches us a very beautiful principle. It says, and if thou art led at any time by the Comforter to speak or teach, or at all times by the way of commandment unto the church, thou mayest do it, but thou shalt not write by way of commandment, but by wisdom. It means that what we say at the pulpit when we are asked to give talks or to bear testimony, the Spirit can give us revelation to help us better understand Scripture, to even help us know how to admonish our fellow brothers or sisters in our callings and in all of that. But the fact that we felt strongly about a particular principle or teaching or understanding does not necessarily mean that we are permitted to write it down and say, this is the commandment and this is what members of the church should follow. And so here, we are not being asked not to receive revelation, but we are being cautioned that we cannot put across those revelations as commandments for the church. And that really confirms a principle that has come up even in previous discussions in the Doctrine and Covenants, that God is a God of order and He's not a God of confusion. And that is why He gives a responsibility and appoints somebody to be the spokesperson and somebody to then be in charge of this group. And I really liked how it wasn't just the prophets, but based on your calling, or whether you were the leader of your home, maybe the priesthood holder in your home, and all of that, then you can receive revelation for that group of people. Like I said some time ago, if I go into the home of someone who is orderly, I want to see that there is order. That's what confirms to me that that person, that is that person's house. And likewise, this is a confirmation to me that we really are in the lost church, because everything is orderly.
I really like what you said about we saying it. We should be guided by wisdom. I feel it is very important that we do things in wisdom and in order. And so, as much as we are entitled to revelation and all of that, we should be wise in how we portray or say those revelations. Thank you so much for those wonderful insights. Okay, so I will continue with revelation. In present times, our prophet, President Nelson, he has emphasized the need for us to work on our spirituality such that we can receive personal revelation for ourselves. And I feel it is so important. He has reminded us that the days we live in, they are indeed evil days, like we spoke about in the previous episode. So it would be quite impossible if we live such that we do not hear the Lord speak to us. We do not receive guidance and revelation from the Lord to guide us or to help us navigate this crazy world that we are in. And so it is important that we work on receiving personal revelation. And just as Sister Aka has said, there is order in the way the Lord even reveals things to us, His children. Just as the bishop would receive revelation from the Lord, you can receive revelation for yourself and not for the entire world. I would also want to emphasize on verse 13. Verse 13 says, "For all things must be done in order and by common consent in the church, by the prayer of faith." In the church, I'm sure we have all heard of the word common consent, how it's important for us to agree on certain things that the Lord has revealed by way of we sustaining our leaders and showing support and consent for the things that they do. In this scripture, in the circumstances surrounding when this revelation was given, I feel it was very important that the people understood the principle of common consent, because the church was still rising. Given the situation where someone else was receiving revelation because the person had been deceived and all of that, it was important that the people recognize the prophets as the main source of revelation for the church, and they commonly consent to that. I feel it was important for a growing church. And in our day, even though the church is well established and all of that, the Lord requires us to show common consent when we sustain our leaders. We promise that we would help them execute their duties which the Lord has given them. We will serve in the capacities they will call us, and we will do all that we can to ensure that we help those people move His work forward. And we also help each other on the path of salvation.
Yeah, I really like the prayer of faith bit, because I think sometimes there may be some hesitations or some concerns that sometimes people may think they have about that person who may have been called to actually be the one to receive revelation on behalf of the world. And it's telling us that we don't just raise our hand and say, "I sustain," but if we have concerns, we need to seek understanding and clarity through prayer and faith. And I believe that we may not understand, so we may not understand some of the decisions of the Lord in terms of who He calls, who He qualifies, and even what they say to us sometimes. But if we have concerns, He's given us that it must be by prayer and faith, prayer of faith.
Yes.
And with time, I believe that we can come to understand.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes. So thank you very much for staying with us. As always, we encourage you to study the words of Scripture, and we know that as you do so, you can receive personal insights for yourself, and this will be a blessing to you. See you in our next episode. Bye.
Bye.